Well, look, see, Garbage Man speaks American, but don't listen to his bullshit either, because that's not really English either. That's just that's just bastardized French, because really the French were the founders of America. That's the way it works. It's you got the Pilgrims and Puritans on one side, and then you got the French, and then you had the French and Indian War, which means the French and Indians fought each other, and the French won, and then that's where you get your founding fathers from, the French. Garbage Man will agree with me that that is undoubtedly American history. That's the way it works. That's how it happened. If it weren't for the French, no America. Yeah, basically. So yeah, no, American is a French dialect, which is why it sounds so. Rough to our ears, because the French language is not a nice language. In fact, German is also modelled on French. Funnily enough, German is also modelled solely on French, which is why it sounds like strangling a bunch of cats in the same bucket all at the same time. But yeah, that is where the American language comes from. 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's why that's why the Garbage Man is the way he is, because like the French, the Americans are arrogant. So the apple didn't fall too far from the tree at all. And then the English came, and the English said, "No, we're going to take this land." It was the one war the French won, which was the War of Independence. And the French actually won a war there. And, Napoleon was right there at the time. And Napoleon led his troops to victory. And after Napoleon defeated the English at Mount Rushmore, which is where the Puritans landed, it was very nice that it was very nice that they fought the war where the country began, which around Mount Rushmore is also where the White House is. So that was a good thing that happened, and the French won the war there, and that is the only war that the French have ever won. But they don't really consider the war against the Indians too much of a war at all. It's the French showed up with guns, and the Indians were like, "Please don't beat us and kill us. Here, have some nice blankets that we've made for you." And then they gave the French some blankets, and that was kind of like where the white flag meme comes from, because all the blankets were white, because they knew that it would appeal to the French. See, it was a meme ahead of its time, is what the white blankets were. It's just it wouldn't become a full meme up until quite a considerable time later. But yeah, the Indians knew what was up. See, American Indians are the original meme lords, is what they are. What do I have here? French were the biggest land power for a long time. Presidents used to be in for life, though. Plymouth Rock. No, it was Mount Rushmore is where it all happened. I'm telling you American history because I'm always right. I think the Statue of Liberty is right next to Mount Rushmore too. Yeah, it is. It's like right next door to where Mount Rushmore is this Yellowstone National Park, and it's a park where there's only yellow stones, which is where it gets its name. And you might wonder why that is. It's just basically a sulfur pit. It's basically a sulfur. You see deserts with sand. It's basically like a desert with mounds made out of sulfur dust, which is why it's yellow. So that's why Yellowstone National Park exists. There's some sulfur boulders in there, and it smells like arse. But that's the whole allure of the place. And nestled deeply in there is where the Statue of Liberty is. So yeah, there you go. Old Yeller. Oh yeah, yep. Oh yeah, that's where Old Yeller. That's what they call Yellowstone National Park. Yeah, right. I get you. See, Buttonfly's clued in. He knows how the history works. The Texas oil fields are close by. From The Wizard of Oz. Yep. The Titanic hit an iceberg just off the coast of Mount Rushmore. See, look, that's a misconception. It didn't actually hit an iceberg off of the coast of Mount Rushmore. There's this place called New Jersey, right? And there was when immigrants came to America, what they would do is, when they were in Ireland, they would lash themselves together and form a giant ball, and then they would get another Irishman to push them in. And it wasn't an iceberg, it was an Irishberg. So this ball of Irishmen was floating around the sea, and they were just trying to get to America, and just as they were getting close to the American coast, this fucking ship like Randy Orton out of nowhere just crops up and just fucking barrels ass right into the Titanic and fucks the whole thing up for everyone. See, the Irishmen in that event were kind of like God. See, they built the Titanic, but on the same hand, they also destroyed the Titanic. So it could only take an Irishman to blow up something like the Titanic, which was unsinkable, because that's just the Irish way. And you might wonder, well, just a boat hitting a thing or running into a mass of people isn't going to be enough. Yeah, but you don't understand. These Irishmen had been in the water for so long, they were angry, and, Fighting Irish being what they are. So when they got within striking distance, they top of the morning laddies, and just, punched the fucking thing, and then, yeah, that was it. That was all she wrote, and the fucking thing sank. That's how it worked. And also, the Hindenburg went down, crashed into Mount Rushmore. Well, no. Not really. No, not exactly. No, that's not how that worked. That's not how it works. The Hindenburg didn't work that way. Alright, yeah, look, the Hindenburg himself was an ancestor of this guy called Bloomberg. You might have heard of him. He's the news guy, right? And they were both born on the same day. And Bloomberg was there. And his mate, his cousin, this Hindenburg, is there, and they're fucking around with hydrogen. And he says, "Look, watch me." It was a beautiful wedding, and what's his name? The Godfather was there, and he said, "I'm very happy to be here on the day of your daughter's wedding." And Bloomberg was like, "Oh, that's very kind of you, Godfather." And then, to entertain the party guests, Hindenburg decided that he was going to, he was going to take it a step too far, because, that's what Hindenburg does. He's a precocious little scamp. Goes and starts, quaffing a hydrogen. And, completely blows himself up like a Violet out of, what's that movie called? Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. He got all big and then started to float away. And then while he's up in the air, he's like, "Guys, let me light my fart on fire. You're gonna love it." And he said it in a Bronx dialect, because everyone spoke in Bronx dialects back then. And tried to light his fart on fire, and then he kind of deflated in a massive conflagration, and it fell right into Rome, which happens to be right in Connecticut, and he fell right into Rome, and that's where you get the Rome fire from. So that's exactly how it happened. All right, and, Emperor Nero of Rome at the time was very upset, and that's what he said. What he said was, and this is how the fire initially started. He said, He thought Hindenburg was the moon, because he was so large from taking in so much helium, and he said, "Oh, when the moon." He said he got out when the moon, and then Hindenburg, through his flatulence and flying around like a deflated balloon on fire, hit him straight in the eye, and he said, "When the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore." And then that's where we get the song from. So, in fact, That's Amore is the saddest song on Earth, because it reminds us that Rome was lit on fire by a flatulent German. and so many people died, and we lost the complete library of Rome. So everything's interconnected. It's very sad, but it is what it is. So it's always good to know about history. So this is why Wikipedia is not good, because Wikipedia is just fake news. So all you need to do is just ask Daddy how 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 everything went down, and I'll regale you. I'm very knowledgeable as a historian. This is why I'm so good at news posting, because I know everything and I'm always right. I'm never wrong. I'm never wrong when it comes to history. I'm always correct. Well, what's this? An Abraham Lincoln's cherry tree. Oh, look, it's the cherry tree isn't what you think it is. It's actually a dirty metaphor for Mrs. Lincoln's cooch. All right. And where do you think the song "Please Let Me Put My Finger in Your Cherry Pie" comes from? The cherry tree was referring to the bush around her vagina, and the cherry pie was the actual innards of the vagina. And he came to singing that verse over and over and over again so much that whichever band it was that sang it, and I know there's a few variations of it, they're just doing Lincoln a solid and keeping the man train going, because Lincoln was a sexual deviant who had such sexual prowess that it can't even be broached. Like, for example, right? Amelia Earhart was a real smart lady. Okay, she was a real smart lady. In fact, her and Madame Curie, Madame Curie, yeah, Madame Curie. Her and Madame Curie discovered uranium and palladium together, and while Amelia Earhart wasn't French, Abraham Lincoln didn't like French people, because he wasn't a patriot. He didn't like the way the America, a French colony, was created by the French. He wasn't a patriot. He's what you would call today a classic liberal. He doesn't like foreigners. So Lincoln didn't like Madame Curie, but he did like Amelia Earhart, and he really started to bung it on. He started singing the cherry pie song, because he loves cherry pies, and she decided to get into a fucking aircraft and piss off. On her way there, the savages on Captain Flinders' boat and Captain Cook's boat, because they were sailing around at the same time, the same as Christopher Columbus. They were all great mates. They were all floating around at the same time. And while she was out, the savages on those boats shot her down, and she crashed into what is now Tahiti. And the savages ate her, and they made toothpicks out of her airplane, which is why they couldn't find her, or the body. There wasn't really much to find. And, they made wind chimes out of her bones, and that's good. And that's kind of why wind chimes are a thing now. Every time you see a wind chime, it's actually just in homage to Amelia Earhart. That's why that is. No other reason than that. Yeah. So that was that's a very nice thing that you perhaps didn't know. So basically, Amelia Earhart is dead because Abraham Lincoln is a racist. Yeah. Oh no, sorry. Yeah, Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, Abraham Lincoln is a racist. Yep. Yep, that's the one. Because he hates French people. He's not patriotic. No. There we go. What do I have here? Cherry tree is fake news. No, it's not. It's exactly as I've described it. You're just you don't want to hear the truth. That's all it is. Oh, good. You learn history as entertainment. It mostly comes from 90s television. So weird how you are forced to learn. No, I didn't. I wasn't forced to learn. I'm classically trained. I'm classically trained at history. It's to be a thespian is to be a historian. So, being a natural thespian, because you come. Look, you have to even to be a thespian, you have to come from Thespany, which is right next door to my Slav lands anyway. So we're basically cousins. And I think I have a thespian cousin, as it turns out. So that's all good.